So my name is Natalie O'Neill, Natalie Vega O'Neill. My role here at Junior Achievement is I'm the CEO, so the Chief Executive Officer. So I have the privilege of working with a wonderful staff that's back there, some board members that are here, these wonderful people from the business community that are here to talk to you guys today, to bring programs around financial literacy and how we help you get ready for careers and how you can successfully start and run a business. We bring programs like that to students all across the state. So we're thrilled to have you guys here today for this special event that we're calling a town hall. So you can hear from these business leaders and learn about their career paths and how they got to where they are and things that are interesting to them, that were interesting to them when they were younger and how they got to where they are and what led them to be interested in the careers that they're in. So we want this to be interactive. We want you guys to feel comfortable. We know that there's some students that have questions in advance, but anybody can ask a question today. Keep it clean. And we will have a great time this afternoon, okay? So you guys ready to get started? Okay. So part of your day today here is about to be participating in Finance Park, right? Yes? Okay. So Finance Park, the goal of Finance Park is to teach you guys about money, right? About a budget and expenses. And when you get to be an adult, all of these pressures and stresses you have about balancing your budget, right? And making sure that you're investing in yourself and that you're saving money and that you're paying your bills and you can meet the needs that you have as an individual or as a family. And so that's the work that we've been doing here in Washington State for 70 years. This is our 70th anniversary this year, 2024, as an organization. And so during that time, over those 70 years, we've worked with over 2 million students across the state of Washington. And it's really wonderful that we have the honor every single day to bring our programs, teaching kids about how money works, how your interests and passions can lead to career success, and how if you're interested in starting a business, how you can start and successfully run a business. And that's really the point of Junior Achievement of what we want to do. We offer our programs all across the country. So there's 102 JA areas across the country, and we're in 6 countries there's 102 JA areas across the country, and we're in 6 countries around the world. So you are part of a network of millions of students around the world right now that are getting JA programs. So it's a pretty special thing to have you guys here today, and we're really happy. So we're going to get started with some questions that I'm going to ask the panel, and then as I said, you guys are going to engage with us and ask some questions, but we're just really thrilled to spend a little time together today. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists just to give an introduction on their name, their role, and any interesting things about their job that they want to share with you guys right off the bat, right? But before we get started, how many people are Seahawks fans? Uh-oh, not enough, right? How many people are Mariners fans? Uh-oh, Fred. So we have, and how many people have flown on a plane? How many people have flown on a Delta Airlines plane? Ooh, that's the winner. So we have wonderful people from the Mariners. We have a former Seahawks player who is now a business entrepreneur, and we have somebody from Delta Airlines here. So we have a wonderful group of people here today that want to talk to you guys and share with you a little bit more about themselves. So I'm going to just ask each of you to introduce yourself and share with the students your job and your role within your company.
Hello. Nice to see all you faces here today. Really happy you're here. And I'm happy I'm here to talk to you about my path, what I do, and really to hear from you as well when we get to that part of our program when we engage. So start thinking about those questions. I see hands coming up already. That's encouraging. My name is Fred Rivera. My job title is Executive Vice President and General Counsel with the Seattle Mariners. What that means is I'm the team's lawyer. I'm also responsible for what we call community relations, being out in the community, representing the Seattle Mariners in events like this, and other events around the 5 states that the Seattle Mariners represent. There aren't many Major League Baseball teams around us, so we're lucky enough to be the home team for Washington, Idaho, Montana, Alaska, and Oregon. So we have quite a wide variety of territory. we'll talk a little bit more about how I got here, but I'll tell you that I'm passionate about baseball. I took this job with the Mariners only because I love the industry. I love what I do. I love to engage in the community. And that'll be a kind of a common theme about what I talk about today. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 32 plus years now, with the Mariners for 5 of those years.
All right. Oh, well, good morning, and was happy to see all your hands put up when you say that when you fly and you've flown on Delta or Delta Airlines. So my name is Joan Wang, and I'm the managing director of the Pacific Northwest for Delta Airlines. I live here in Seattle and work for Delta. What does that mean as a managing director for Delta Airlines in this region? My boss, which is the president and the CEO, says that anything happens in this region that relates to airline or anything relates to Delta, a pin drop, a cat that climbed up a tree, that's my responsibility. So I represent Delta in here, and similar to what Brett said about this region, Pacific Northwest covers anywhere from Alaska down to, my territory would be, to Oregon, and of course, towards the east, all the way to Montana. And there's 6 states in this region. For Delta, we have 2 hubs. What we call hubs are where airplanes utilize big airports to transfer passengers, to fly passengers. And of course, my responsibility will be representing our 2 large hubs. One is, of course, Seattle, which is a hub that is not only a very important hub that connects Seattle globally, but also for passengers like yourself to anywhere you want to go in the, of course, 48 states and, of course, the rest of the world. So as I mentioned, that's my job. My journey as how I got to become a person that works for Delta is quite unique, which I'll share with you guys later. For me, daily, it's still learning about my job. And one of the things that's exciting about this job is that not every day is the same day, and you always have things that comes up that's new and you feel passionate about it. So I'm very happy to be here today and to share with you my career journey, path, and of course, would like to hear what yours will be. Thank you.
I'm Doug. And honestly, I don't even feel worthy to be up here with these amazing people, but thank you for inviting me. I'm here. So we're gonna have some fun today. It is good to see you all. As they were talking, I was just thinking about how I was once your age. And I think that is also the reason why I do the work that I do. So I'm a former Seahawk. Most of you have probably seen a Seahawks game. Have you not? Okay, I just gotta ask this question because it was bothering me when I didn't see enough hands go up. Are there any 49er fans here? So disappointed in y'all, so disappointed in y'all. I'm actually a Buffalo Bills fan, but we're gonna talk about that. So when I retired from the NFL, actually when I was in the NFL, I recognized very early on that my pathway to the NFL was unique, but also not unique at the same time. So it was unique in the fact that I got to the NFL, but it was not unique in the fact that the struggle to get to the NFL was that most of the players who are playing in the NFL have gone through a similar lived experience. And so being aware of that and recognizing that there was a responsibility that I had to take those lessons and then share it with the folks who came after me, we created the Family First Community Center that's up and running in Renton, Washington now. And then through that, I recognized that there was so many different elements of that connection to students and folks like yourself that would be relevant and would have been relevant for me when I was your age. So one of those things is entrepreneurship. And so I started an organization called Vault 89 Ventures, which is basically, if I'm being quite candid with you, I still don't know what we're doing. We're still figuring it out every day. We have a number of things that we do, but most importantly, We are charged with taking the lessons that we're learning in life and applying them to other things that then we can pass down to folks like yourselves. So the entrepreneurship part of that is just the work ethic that is required to run a business, but not just to run a business, but to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be, and then present that to the world to where everybody can benefit. I get this similar, I get the privilege of working with incredible people all across the state, all across this country. I know Joan, I know Fred, they're fantastic people, and we are very fortunate to be here with you, and you are also very fortunate to have these great individuals here to share their story. So thank you.
Thanks, Doug. So just to give the students a little context, Fred, you said you're a general counsel, and that's a big title, and then you said you're a lawyer, so that's probably more familiar, right? So on a typical day, but I also love that you're the part of your responsibility is that you get to work with the community. So you get to make investments on behalf of the Mariners to community partners like Junior Achievement and others that are doing great work. So what does a typical day for you look like in your job on a day-to-day basis?
So general counsel is a fancy word for being a lawyer for a company. We'll start right there. So that's part of my title. The other part is executive vice president, which means I'm part of the leadership of the baseball team. I don't have a typical day-to-day, which is why I love my job. I do something different every single day. Some days I play lawyer, and I'm reviewing contracts and agreements. For example, you all been to T-Mobile Park or been by T-Mobile Park? Yeah. So T-Mobile is another business, right? It's based over in Bellevue. And in order for them to have their name on front of our baseball field, we need an agreement with them. They need to pay us money. We need to know how long that sign will be up, and that all is documented in about a 150-page contract. That's probably one of our biggest contracts. We have contracts with all of our players. We have contracts when you go buy a hot dog with the vendor that serves the hot dog and the employees. So there's a lot of legal work that I manage in that area. But what I really love to do is kind of that executive vice president side, non-lawyer side, which includes being an ambassador for the team, giving back to our community that has given so much to our baseball team. We have, I think, the most loyal fans in Major League Baseball. We have a nonprofit organization, so a different business that's a nonprofit that doesn't make money, but solely gives back to the community. It's called Mariners Care, and I oversee that as well. So we're looking for ways to invest in organizations like Junior Achievement. We've spent a lot of time lately on access to baseball and softball and other sports. We think that's an important part of growing up, right? I'm guessing there's some athletes in this room here. Just think about what being on a team and having a coach as a mentor and the physical activity and the friends and all the great stuff that having access to sports gives to you as you're growing up. So we spend a lot of time and effort making sure that everybody in our region has an opportunity to do that, no matter where they live, where they come from, what their family's economic status is. That's very important to what we do.
Well, I don't know what Doug is going to say, but similarly to Fred, I don't actually have a typical day. Part of my job is, and I would say in the big picture of my job is to ensure passengers and people who travels, what they think of Delta and what are the things that we can do at Delta to make the travel experience smooth, enjoyable, products that we have that's on board any of the aircraft or flights that we have and places that we fly to are listening and being able to cater to what passengers like you, your mom and dad, your family, your neighbors, people here in Washington State and in this region, serves the needs of what they need. And so what does that mean would be that, for a good example would be Seattle, we operate 178 flights a day, right, to anywhere domestic USA. And we also fly 7 global destinations out of Seattle. So to ensure this is a process and every flight is successful and everything that is basically what a passenger when they sit on the flight to go from A to B is being taken care of. And therefore, we do a lot of looking at the performance of how these flights are performing. We also then work with whether different stakeholders like the airport. We have airport operations, and even at the airport, we have almost close to 3,000 people that works every day to ensure a successful flight is being delivered when they leave Seattle, when they arrive to Seattle, for every of the passengers' needs. So a lot of times when you're flying, you see that a plane, when you board a plane, of course you check in, you see the gate agents, being welcoming, listening to you, help you where you want to go, help your luggage where they need to go. And of course, when the aircraft is pushing back, you see how, people that's around the aircraft, whether they are, guiding the aircraft to be pushed back, or when they're arriving, having these people that are helping. It's a complex operation. And so a lot of my job is to make sure that I'm, looking after these people too, and ensure that their success in what they do to deliver what the satisfaction of the customer is. I also then, of course, work with companies, many companies here in, Washington State, whether it's Amazon, whether it's T-Mobile, whether it's, Microsoft, Intel, and these companies that basically have corporate travel needs as well to go from A to B. And so what we do is, of course, looking at a lot of the contracts and ensuring their whether there's savings for their companies when it comes to travel budget, or to facilitate, because there's a large group of people that you may already connect and know, to help them to get where they want to be. So there's a lot of complexity in what I do. What I love most about what I do is because there's no one typical day. Every day it's meeting people, talking to people, negotiation. And also at the end of the day, it's connecting. And I used to say to a lot of people, like, what do you like most about your job? I say, this is the best job in the world because I get paid to make friends. And I also get paid for actually the job that I do get to influence. And so those are the things that I find that working at what I do really brings a lot of pleasure and the satisfaction of my job.
So very similarly, I do not have a typical routine. And so our company is still a very small company. And so everybody in our company has to wear multiple hats. So similar to Fred, I'm also reviewing contracts, and then we talk with our lawyers. So the negotiation part, I'm also out communicating and building relationships with folks in different organizations. It's a whole bunch of different stuff that we get to do every day. And that's also why I love my job. It's something new every day. Just to give you guys an example, I'll give you two examples because it's really hard for me to tell you what we do. The technical term is we're a social impact investment firm. Don't look it up, just hear me out as I'm explaining this to you. So there's two projects I'll describe to you. So one, we work with a company called Safeway. Anybody heard of Safeway? Of course. In the city of Seattle, they have 17 stores, 15 or 17 stores, I can't remember right now. But anyways, those stores, right? Every day there's food that is about to expire. It's still edible food, but it's about to expire, right? And if they don't get that food out to folks who could use it, to eat it, that food has to get thrown away. 2.5 to 3.5 tons of food every week, right? The city of Seattle spends $35 million on food security. We have a proposal with the city right now saying, hey, we'll take that food that's gonna be thrown away, that's still edible, we'll do integrated logistics to get it to the food banks and the other hunger relief organizations in a timely manner with the folks who will eat it, we'll get it within 24 hours, right? That's the kind of work that my company does. On top of doing traditional regular investments, we have a satellite company in our portfolio. There's 4 billion people on the planet that don't have access to internet. That's their mission, is to solve that gap. We have a community center in Renton, which I mentioned. Our deal with them is that they're gonna put their first platform in our community center so that community in the area will have access to internet for free, right? So we're trying to be very creative in just solving problems. So traditionally, just like the relationship part of it, you come to me, you say you have a problem. We have a network of folks who are willing to step up at the table and help us solve that problem, and then we just try to find a solution. So my day-to-day is all over the board. I wear multiple hats. Again, still learning. I'm not an expert in any field, but I'm learning every day, and that's really what I get to do, and what I enjoy is just learning every day.
Great, thanks. Can you answer my next question, and then we're going to go to the students to ask their questions. But Doug, you touched a little bit on kind of your change in your career path, right, from an athlete to now an entrepreneur and a business businessman. Can you talk a little bit more about your career first into the NFL and then now the work that you're doing currently?
Sure. So, quite honestly, I never had a desire to play NFL. I actually was a basketball player. Well, let me back up. I was never a good basketball player. I wanted to play basketball. Basketball was my first love, but the cards were in it for football. So, never really that wasn't my vision. That wasn't my plan. But that was my pathway to get to the next level for myself. And so. And I was kind of good at it, I gotta be honest, kind of good at it. But I will say it was a lot of work, right? And I think that's the part that you all don't necessarily get to see, right? You see this, you see Sundays, you see the celebration, you see the glitz and the glamour, but just like any other sport and any other job, if you want to be truly successful at it, it's a 24-hour-a-day job, right? So not only are we at the facility watching film and studying our opponent and working out and working on plays and practicing. But then once you leave the facility, it's also about, are you getting enough sleep at night? Are you recovering from that workout? What are you eating, right? What are you watching on TV? What are you consuming? How are you being the best version of yourself so that when you step on the field, there's no distractions and you can focus on what's in front of you? That was a very clear learning lesson for me. In order for me to be successful and to survive in that industry, that was what I had to do. When I retired in 2019, sorry, let me back up. I had been playing football since I was 6 years old. So that's really all I had known up until that point when I was 29 years old, 30 years old, about to retire. And so that transition was really hard for me. But the process in that transition was really trying to figure out, who am I, right? I'm not just a football player. I'm not just an athlete. I'm Doug Baldwin. I actually love Star Wars. I like playing with Legos. I like war strategy, which is... I know every airplane in the military right now. F-18 Hornet, F-15 Eagle, F-16. We can go down tanks. Sorry, never mind. We're not going to sidetrack there. I'm a military nut. Both of my grandfathers were in the military. My grandfather on my mom's side was in the Air Force. Dad's side was in the Navy. So it's one of my passions. So, I'm not just a football player. And I wanted people to see that. And so business was another avenue for me to do that, to demonstrate my value outside of just performing on the football field, but then also for folks to see me as more than just a football player. That was really important to me. It's still really important to me. So that transition was a challenging one, but I found my footing. I found a calling. I found a great team to work with and a great support system. And now we get to do great work and work with tremendous organizations and people. So I think that answered your question.
It did. Yeah. Thank you. And Joan, you have an interesting background. You were in education, before you went into the corporate world. Can you share a little bit about your path?
Absolutely. So before I even joined airline industry, I was actually a guidance counselor. I was a guidance counselor. My day job, which I love it, was actually talk to kids like you on a daily basis. You come to my office, Miss Wang's office, and you sit with me for your course selection, to do what you want to do in life, talk about your problems, what do I do when I grow up, right? And it was a great job because I get to talk to lots of kids just like you and telling you what to do, or tell you what you're supposed to do, or tell you and help you to find out what you want to do. One of the things that I always, when I decided, and this is about 20 years ago, I loved it, right? I thought, this is great. So how did that connect to become an airline job? Well, it's a little bit by fluke, but also not just by fluke. I actually took a very far journey where I left my comfort zone, which was being here in this region, and decided to take a really far trip and move myself to Asia and to Taiwan, right? And at the time when I took that leap of faith, was actually still in the education field, but it was more to talk about, the benefits for international students to study and do exchange programs in a North America setting. And I did that job as a representative of that, entity to promote studying in North America. And through that, I start working. And as I said, a lot of my job, and that one thing that I do have and still has, is connecting with people. Met lots of people, different people from various industry, and came across to work, with people that actually represent airlines. And then they're like, Joan, so what do you think of coming to work for an airline? Is that going, it's no different. If you're promoting North America as a study destination, airline industry is the same. You just promote where the flights are going to fly to. I'm like, okay, that's easy. Took the leap of faith, went to Asia, went to work for an airline. Then from there, that airline took me to work in China, as well as Singapore, then later on to Korea. And of course, when I joined Delta, that was about 5 years ago, I joined Delta in China, back in China again. So for 20 years of my career as a guidance counselor with the airline business was completely in a, overseas environment. And one thing that I always feel that never changed is the fact that the ability for me to say that, 3 things that's important into where do I want to go, where do I find this is the right job for me, was the fact that, let me just ask you, you guys know what IQ is, right? Do you guys know what's EQ? IQ is, of course, intelligence, right? And so managing, basically able to comprehend and what you have in terms of understanding a job. EQ is emotional. So emotional intelligence will be that, how do you manage your feelings, right? And then the third one is actually called RQ, which is resilience. And those are 3 components that I found that helped me when making the transition of 2 completely different career path when I was going through the transition, is to have those 3 things where understanding yourself, what you can manage and comprehend, of course, have the emotional stability to manage your feelings and find out truly who you are, and resilience. When you're hitting difficult situations, challenges, things you don't know, you don't understand, you don't know how to even start with, is having that resilience to find out and be able to really get yourself out of a situation very quickly. So those are actually perhaps related but not related, but those are things that I feel like when I made the transition in my career, 2 different very, very, very vast different jobs to help me through that of understanding myself where I am.
Thank you. And Fred, you had mentioned earlier that you love baseball, so that's what drew you to your current job. But why were you interested in law? Why was that something that you were interested in studying? And you've worked for a lot of different places.
Well, I mentioned it's a long story, but I'll give you the short version. So I, second generation Mexican American. My family's from southern Mexico, primarily. And I had no exposure to the law. I had no exposure to professionals, period. My grandfather was a gardener. My other grandfather was a cook. And the law and a professional, that was foreign to me, right? If I could make up a word. You know what a fungiello is? That's what a lawyer was to me, right? I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what they did, what she did. And baseball for me was an avenue to gain confidence, to find mentors, and have some confidence in myself to explore different ways to live my life, right? To find something that I was passionate about and something I was good about. So to be honest, I became interested in the law because of a TV show. I was part of the law school generation they called the LA Law Generation. There was a TV show. They're way too young. TV show called LA Law. I grew up in LA. And there was a lawyer, Victor Cifuentes, paid by Jimmy Smits, a Puerto Rican. And he dressed in a nice suit, and he showed up in a beautiful office and drove a nice car. And I said, I think I kind of want to look into that to see what that's about. And that exposed, that was it. That exposed. I was, I'll share with you, I was not a good student in high school. I went to a junior college for 2 years and almost flunked out. I only stayed in so I could play baseball, so I could be eligible. But something clicked, and it was just the mentors, the confidence that some of my coaches gave in me, and just having that initial little glimpse of this additional profession, this additional life that attracted me. And frankly, the competition, I'm a pretty competitive person. The competition I had playing baseball transferred to school, transferred to law school, and then has transferred to my profession.
Thank you. All right, I am going to start with some of the students that I know have questions, but again, anybody can ask a question, so please feel free and just raise your hand. But I'm going to start with Aiden. Aiden, where are you? All right. I'm going to come to you, so we'll use the microphone.
Wait, do I like ask one of them or ask all of them? Okay, yeah. Okay. What should I do? What should I be doing now to prepare to graduate and for life after high school?
That's a really broad question. But every broad question starts from the basics. So one of the things that I think is very important, I'm now talking like a guidance counselor, is to really explore, and this is what I used to tell my students, what is something that you like to do now, whether it's the subject that you're good at school, or a hobby, or things that you do, you truly, when you get up in the morning, you think about when you're doing that, you're like, I'm really happy. I want to get into it, right? That's a good start, because that's when you start to explore. What does that mean? What does it involve? Like, why do I like this so much? What is, as what Fred said, when he watched LA Law, right? And, how that inspired him to try to dig in more about what does that involve? What is that job or person that that you feel like, hey, that's a cool job, a cool thing that this person is doing. What do they do? And start from there. And that is probably a good way to start before you just go, oh, what do I do after high school? It's never, and you're still far, far, far away from graduating and getting to the next step, but this is a good start.
I don't think anything else.
See why
more
we
said.
invited the former guidance counselor to help. Did that answer your questioning? Are you satisfied with the answer? Oh, good. Okay, where's Natalia? All right, I'm coming to you next. Okay. Hi. All right.
What is something that that could help me find a good career path? Like, any of you can answer that.
It's a guidance counsel question again. More practically, right? Talk to your guidance counselor in school. Okay, one of the things that we used to have a lot of tools in school where, there's a book called What's the Color of the Umbrella? I don't know if they're still using that book, but they used that book when I was in high school. I heard that, there's like 75 edition to the book now, but I think they still start to use that. And your guidance counselor will actually have a lot of tests. These are not tests that they score you, but these are tests to find out who you are. And these are, everybody's results going to be different, but it will help you to understand who you are to begin with. So that's a pretty good way to start utilizing the resources that you have. And then, of course, what you're doing now is everything that you do, like coming to JA, doing the experience, own it, right? Every step that today you're here, whatever you hear, absorb it like you're a sponge. And what does that mean to you? And have ownership to it, reflect it, and how does that help you to find that answer is also another way that I can do right now. Yeah.
A couple things. Number one, ask questions and be inquisitive and have confidence to do it. If you have questions about something that we say, something that a teacher says, something that a parent says, ask questions and have the confidence to do it, because that's how you learn. Number two, don't put a ceiling on what you can do. The sky's the limit. You can do anything. Don't be dissuaded from failures. That's part of growing up. Don't be dissuaded from other people, what other people may say are your limits. Really important to have an open mind. And lastly, and it's part of the last question as well, is just be a good person. If you're good to other people will be good to you. And it might not be that day, right? You might be really nice to somebody and they may steal your lunch. It might be a terrible day, but in the long run, it comes around and you will benefit from being a good person.
I can't reiterate enough the good people, good person thing. And then also something Fred said about asking questions. So I'll give you guys an example from my perspective as a professional athlete. So, you know, obviously we have plays that we run, right? And so when I was in college, this is when I started learning this, they would give you a specific route to run. So a slant route, for instance, right? It's a 3-step slant. So your inside foot is up, right? So let's say the ball's in there. Inside foot is up. I'm gonna go 1, 2, and on my 3rd step, I'm planning to go inside, right? Why 3 steps? That was a question that my coach told me to ask. Why 3 steps? The reason why 3 steps is because there's another route that is dependent on me getting to my depth, and the quarterback is relying on me to get my timing. So if I am off, then the whole play is off, right? And so to answer your question, and to piggyback off of what Fred said, ask questions, ask why, don't be afraid to. Like asking questions is very important. It's vital to your progression and your success. Knowing who you are, the only way that you're gonna know who you are is if you ask questions about who you wanna be. So I can't stress that enough. Ask good questions.
Well, we have another good question back here from Justice. You want to stand up and ask your question, Justice?
How can I learn about the culture of an organization I might want to work for?
Yeah, it's a great question. Organizational culture. How can prospective employees learn about organizational culture?
Organizational culture. So what culture is, it's the norms and the behaviors of an organization that you're going to potentially work for, right? So how do you first of all, you have to identify what culture you want to work in. Every business is different in their culture, and they all have a reputation. Amazon has a certain culture of how they treat each other, and Microsoft has a different culture. Nordstrom's has a different one. So first, understand where you want to work. Do you want to work in a really fast-paced environment where you're challenging each other all the time to get better? Or do you want to work in an environment where you sit around a table and you're very collaborative and friendly and you work through problems to get solutions? Both are perfectly fine, but they're very different. So understand what situation you want to work in. And then you just ask questions, right? You ask questions from people who have worked in those organizations. You can ask questions through doing Google searches. There's so much material out on the web now about corporate culture, what they're like. And last, I would say, if it's important to you that you work for a company that gives back to the community, ask those questions and do your research to find out what they're actually doing as a corporate citizen. Are they concerned about the environment? Are they concerned about those who have been disenfranchised? And then what are they doing about it? Those are a couple things I can think of.
Working for an airline like Delta is quite unique. A lot of people usually ask me, well, how is Delta different than other airlines, right? Other airlines like American Airlines or Alaska or United Airlines. The biggest difference is actually the core beliefs, which is part of what we call, as what you asked, culture. And the culture is, my company has a belief in the culture of people. And what that means is that a lot of the things that the company that I work for invest significantly on our own people, which is people like, employees that work for Delta. And the reason for that is because, the belief that when you invest in your people, the people will then transform and impact and be nice to other people, which is our passengers. And because of that, our passengers are happy. It rewards the company, rewards a business like ours, and then it goes back to the people. So a company culture is really important because it really identifies who you are and what you're going to be and who you believe who you are. And so what I encourage everyone to do, and I think, at your stage is to, as what Fred says, you can do your research, but another way to really to see what you can do is actually to be hands-on, finding opportunities, big companies, like whether it's Mariners, whether it's actually, it's Seahawks or, companies like Amazon, Microsoft, like Delta, at even high school stages, we actually have internship programs, usually in the summertime. We get kids to come to the campus. We come to learn about the job, right? And that's when as you be participating hands-on in the jobs that you learn or intern and do the internship, it really identifies who you are, and you will also then find what is the culture of each of the company. So my encouragement to you would be like what Fred earlier said, sky's the limit. Never say to yourself you can't do it. Always try. Don't just think, but take action and try and do, and then you will find out as the path what the culture of who you are and what you believe in to find your career path.
Yeah, I would add, they've already said it, but really knowing who you are so that you can know what culture you want to be in, right? And I think I'm a little bit closer to you all's age, not by much, just a little bit closer to your age, but I would also encourage you all to know that you have power. You have power. And these large organizations that have set a culture and that they've done this for how many ever years, right? You guys are the new workforce that's coming in. So when you interview for these jobs, you need to be asking them questions. What is your culture like? How do you treat people? I get to vouch for Delta all the time. I actually just came from a panel with Delta talking about mental health and well-being for their employees, right? So I know they do the work on the ground. They also, we got to bring students to the Delta hangar. So I know their commitment to the actual work. And so when you go into an organization, you're interviewing for a job, ask them those questions. How are you showing up for your community? How are you showing up for your employees? And if they're not giving you the answers that you want, maybe that's a time for you to consider, is this a job that I actually want? So I say that to you all to don't forget that you all have the power too, right? You're making the decision who you want to work with and work for, and to hold these companies accountable to actually showing up and doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. You guys have the power to do that. So don't forget about that either.
Okay, and we have one more question from Soraya back here.
Okay, anyone can answer this question if they want to, but what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
That's a great question. Hold on, give me a second. There's a lot of things I would tell myself, but I think that there's a couple things that are kind of coming to the top right now. One of them would be, don't be afraid to fail. I think that's been a learning lesson for me even now at this stage of my life, because I'm a father of 3 young girls, and I fail every day at trying to be the best father I can for them. But don't be afraid to fail. I think society teaches us not to show the challenges, the struggles that we go through in life. But let's be honest, everybody's going through struggles and challenges in life, right? No matter who you are, no matter what you make it look like, everybody's human, everybody's going through challenges. So just know that and accept that and let it be okay. You're gonna fail, right? Everything's not gonna be rainbows and butterflies, but the beautiful thing is that the way that you learn, the way that you grow, is going through those failures, accepting those failures, and taking the lessons that those failures have to give you, and then applying them to the next failure, to the next step, right? For me personally, that's how I've grown. That's how I've best learned, is to fail, take those lessons, and then apply it to the next thing. So that's what I would tell myself at 16. Don't be afraid to fail. Try. You all do not know how lucky you are. I think most adults would say that they wish they could go back to the time where they didn't have to pay bills, didn't have to worry about all the things that adults have to worry about, right? You have that freedom right now, to some degree. I know we all have our challenges, but to some degree, you have a little bit more freedom than we do as adults to think about those things, because you haven't been in a position for 20 years or whatever it is. Just try, explore. Don't be afraid to explore, and don't be afraid to fail.
I would say at age 16, And I don't want to sound like a cliche, meaning like, it sounds good, but it doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen, but you have to work on it, which is stay positive. And it's hard. But at your age, you are actually your best friend. Meaning that, yeah, you have best friends that you hang out with, you talk to, but you are your best friend, meaning that you know yourself the best. And be truthful to yourself. Staying positive is not easy because there's so many things that are challenges and, things that are, like just shitty, right? Like, just bad day, right? Sorry, I shouldn't say that word, but you know what it is. But you know what? It's only you and the inside voice of you can tell yourself that, yeah, it is a shitty day, but I'm going to stay positive. That attitude actually changes. In fact, there's, not going to technical terms, but there's endorphins in your mind, and you have control of that endorphin to stay positive. When you say, hey, I'm down, but you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to try. I'm going to do different things. It changes. And you know what? Put a smile on your face. Looks really creepy because if you're down, why are you smiling, right? But you know what? It changes you. It changes your attitude. It makes you go forward. I wish that, at 16, it's difficult. Probably no creepy adults is going to tell me that. But, I wish that I knew, and that was what helped me through teenage years to find who I am, to understand who I am, which is like to stay positive.
All great comments. I'll be really brief. Have fun. Enjoy the ride. You have a lot of pressures. I would like to go back and be 16 for a bit in some respects. In other respects, you all have, you're in a very different time than I was, with a lot of different pressures and a lot of different things to worry about that I did not have. Within parameters, though, have fun. Enjoy the time, because you'll never get it back.
That's great. All right, Tashawn's going to ask our last question. You ready, Tashawn?
If you could go back and change something in your career or education, what would it be?
If you could change something, you'd be a basketball. Say that again. You'd be a basketball player, he said.
I'll start. I don't think I would change anything. I'm curious though, and I run this in my mind a lot. I was a history major. I loved history. Love history. I don't know airplanes in the military, but I love history. And my path was to teach high school and coach baseball. And some of my mentors and those that gave me a boost in my teenage years, that's what they did. And I thought it's a pretty good career path. I like that. I run back in my mind, what would that have looked like had I had stayed in sunny Southern California and been on the baseball diamond most of my life. Not a regret, just a curiosity, but love where I am. Love that I full circle 30, 40 years. I work at T-Mobile Park. My office is steps away from the diamond. But I'm happy to say I don't think I would do much different.
I would say where I am today, I feel like I have, looking back through the, journey of education or doing different jobs, I got to be where I want to be, which is work with people. And that is like the biggest reward, which looking back, it wouldn't change because that is ultimately how I came up to where I am today. But if I ever more, again, guidance counselor hat on. If I had to change anything back when I was at your age or later on, which is finishing college and then decide to take on the first step to explore what I wanted to do, I actually went straight to graduate school. I thought that was a mistake, now looking back, because that actually didn't allow me to actually be hands-on and really start right away to work with people. It gave me more chance to actually learn about, and I was a psychology major, so learn more from the books. But then looking back, what really matters to what you do is, in fact, to be hands-on and actually do it. So I wouldn't say that's a regret. It really still helped me with the education that I had to lead where opportunities, where it's going to be. But if I have to change anything, to answer your question, would be like, you know, I wish that I started early to be just taking the steps and do it. And so that would be my answer. Yeah.
Other than being a basketball player, I would say anybody, I know Fred's a baseball fan, but anybody else truly baseball fans in here? Derek Jeter fan? You know Derek Jeter? Heard of Derek Jeter? Okay. In Derek Jeter's retirement interview, they asked him a very similar question. What would you go back and do differently if you could? And he said he would enjoy the moments more. And that really resonated with me as well, because in my career, we were always on to the next thing, right? You score a touchdown, okay, great, but now the next play. You drop a pass, terrible, but now on to the next play. And I know in some careers, it's very hard to not pause and enjoy the moments, but I think just in life in general, I think society we've sped up our lives too often that we don't stop and smell the roses or appreciate life around us and really understand the gratitude that we should have just for breathing oxygen on this planet. And so I would say, for me, if I could go back, I would enjoy the moments more.
That's a great way to end. Thank you guys so much. Can you guys please join me in thanking Fred and Joan and Doug? We're so appreciative of the time that you gave today to spend with these incredible students. Thank you guys for preparing so well and asking your questions in such strong ways. I hope you got the same takeaways that I did, you know, that it's important to make friends, right? To learn about yourself, to advocate for yourself, to be a good person, to have fun and enjoy the moments. And so that's what we want you to get from this, plus other learnings, and carry that forward with you. And we just thank you guys for being so engaged today. So round of applause to you guys for being such great champions.